Music legend Burt Bacharach has died aged 94. Mr Bacharach was widely known for his composing and songwriting, including the hit songs What the World Needs Now Is Love and I Say a Little Prayer. More than 1,200 people performed his songs in public. The musician was awarded 6 Grammys and 3 Oscars during his career, which also featured an Austin Powers cameo.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Burt Bacharach.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. Oh, but a chair is not a house, and a house is not a home when there's no one there.
The family have released a statement saying he gave the world so much and we are eternally grateful. The music is always there, so please keep listening. We send our love from Team Bacharach because that's what friends are for. Joining me now for more on this is musician and composer John Foreman. Thanks very much for your time. We talk about long careers. I mean, technically, you could say Burt Bacharach's career began in about 1950 in Germany, playing piano for officers when he was drafted into the army, and he was still writing scores for films in 2017. That's some longevity, that.
It's absolutely incredible, and it's sort of, obviously, as we all have been thinking about Burt Bacharach today, it's almost like he's got an idiom of his own. You've got rock music, pop music, classical music, French impressionistic music, and you've got Bacharach music. It's like an idiom in and of itself. And he came to Australia in 2007, and I was lucky enough to catch up with him at that stage. And he said, you know, interesting to your point about his long career, that he felt that he was quite untalented as a child and didn't want to be a musician. He wanted to be an athlete, and his mum kind of pushed him into having, you know, at least the piano lessons. And it wasn't until he got to later in life, you know, like in high school, that he played in a band and got that social aspect of music making, and then fell in love with jazz, and the rest, you know, is history. But yeah, the number of songs that he has written over the years, and the fact that if you think of great artists of the 20th century, it's the performer. But in this case, Bacharach rarely performed his own work. It was performed by other people. So in that sort of context, he's more like sort of a Mozart or a Beethoven, you know, the famous composer whose work is performed by so many other people. Because you say, that's what friends are for. Arthur's theme, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, What's New, Pussycat, Walk On By, Say a Little Prayer. Like, the list goes on and on and on. Yeah. Prolific and brilliant. And all these songs that sort of, you know, if they were sort of the soundtrack to our lives in the 70s and 80s and beyond.
He had all these different influences, jazz, harmony. He did different things with chords in particular and progressions, and sort of some of his songs would quickly go up or down. And I guess that's what made a lot of them stay in people's minds, and sort of, you know, I think a lot of people have been humming the songs all day that have been paid in tributes, and you note that they're a bit different, aren't they? And that's what sort of set his style apart and meant that he could last so long, because if, you know, catchy music will always be catchy.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. It was catchy music and musically sophisticated at the same time. You know, it wasn't a simple 3-chord pop song. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but, you know, in Bacharach's case, he did talk about, you know, the influences of Dizzy Gillespie and Thelonious Monk and all these really, you know, complex jazz harmonies that he grew up listening to, and classical music that he grew up listening to. So yes, you're right. There'd be you know, so many of his works were like pop songs with orchestra. And so you'd have a section where the euphonium would be playing the melody, or a muted trumpet would be playing the melody. And he wasn't afraid to write in unusual time signatures and to have chords that sort of moved around all over the place, but in a way that was still accessible to the general public. You know, it was never sort of so esoteric that the audience wasn't able to go on the journey with him and with his thought process. And of course, his collaboration with Hal David, the lyricist, meant that, you know, songs like Walk On By, If You See Me Walking Down the Street, Just Walk On By, the heartbreak of trying to get over someone, so beautifully captured by that piece. And then on the other end of the spectrum, That's What Friends Are For, which, you know, became such an iconic work in its own right. So yes, musically interesting, which is why all the musicians loved working with him, and also super, super catchy.
And loved a cameo. We're nearly out of time, but, you know, a lot of younger people know him from Austin Powers or other movies. He wasn't afraid to just sort of waltz in for a few seconds.
Yeah, you're right. He had, he had a personality. He was so down to earth, friendly, funny, and became a star in his own right, in spite of the fact that he didn't perform his own music very much.
Yeah, really interesting character the more you read about him. John Foreman, great to have your thoughts today. Thank you.